This is Franchise Today, brought to you by FRM Solutions, providers of the best-in-class software solutions for franchise relationship management. Franchise Today is your destination for weekly information, conversations, and interviews with accomplished industry leaders, all of whom share best practices for sustainable growth and sensible franchising. Here now, your host, Stan Friedman, to kick off this week's podcast.
Today is Wednesday, April 20th. I'm Stan Friedman, and this is Franchise Today. Well, I've got another great guest for you today. In fact, he's a natural follow-up to last week's stimulating conversation with Eric Premont and Paul Segreto. In fact, like the two of them, Thryv's Matthew Gourgeot is a giant advocate for small business. But before I introduce you to him, here is hoping that you and yours had a safe and happy Easter, and that those of you who celebrate Passover or Ramadan continue to enjoy your holiday, as we all collectively do our best in this post-COVID era to deal with its remnants while facing persistent supply chain problems, labor woes, rising prices at the pumps and just about everywhere else, and now interest rates that seem to be heading north at lightning speed. Well, it just keeps getting crazier, doesn't it? Yet, somehow, we continue to face these winds of adversity and beat them back as we pivot, dodge, and one way or another, figure out how to make sense of it all. That, quite simply, is who we are and what we do. For those who would suggest otherwise, or want you to believe that our best days are behind us, I say this: the game continues to change, and truth be told, in today's environment, it becomes more and more difficult to play. But the game is never over unless and until you quit. I say, too, thank goodness we still have elections and that the midterms are just around the corner. Now, I'm not going to get all political here, as I really don't care who identifies as a Democrat, Republican, Libertarian, or Independent. The truth is, the only label that really matters in this context is entrepreneur. And when elected officials make poor decisions that adversely impact entrepreneurs, small businesses, and for that matter, franchising, I say don't quit, double down, hang on, and for goodness sake, vote. And please take some time between now and Election Day to learn more about your candidates of choice and what positions they actually hold as pertains to small business and franchising. You might just find yourself shocked by some of what you learn. The Government Relations Department at the IFA will be more than happy to help you facilitate that research. So please, use this time wisely and learn more about your candidates. Remember, elections have consequences, and I believe in my heart of hearts that common sense will prevail. We sometimes take circuitous routes getting where we're going, but this American experiment of ours is about to celebrate its 246th year, and I don't believe it's going anyplace anytime soon, as long as we all do our parts to protect our way of life. Okay, so that's it for the politics, at least here and now. But what a lead in this opening statement makes to today's guest. While I don't know his politics, I do know that Matthew Gourgeot is a common-sense agent of change who would never subscribe to one doing more of the same thing and expecting different outcomes. So when I come back in 2 minutes or less, it will be to introduce you to Matthew Gourgeot as we talk today about how to help small businesses thrive in a world of change.
Franchise Today will be right back, but first, a word from our sponsors.
Hey, franchisors of restaurants, bars, grills, and taverns, and multi-unit franchisees, listen up. This message is for you. Atmosphere TV wants to help you cut costs on overpriced cable TV for your business and either replace it completely or partially if sports programming is essential at your locations. What Atmosphere TV provides are 100% free programming options with more than 50 channels of highly engaging and entertaining programming that is audio optional and guaranteed to please your customers and even increase their average ticket per visit. So here's how it works. Atmosphere hooks you up with an Apple TV HD receiver loaded with more than 50 channels of fully licensed, no cost to you, fun and lifestyle programming. These channels include Chive and Red Bull TV, bloopers, superhuman feats, and an array of viewing options that don't require sound to be enjoyed. And this offer is not just limited to restaurants or bars. No, any business with a TV screen in its waiting room can benefit from Atmosphere's free programming offer as well. So what are you waiting for? Cut the cord on overpriced cable and get Atmosphere TV with its 100% free, engaging, and entertaining programming options. Keep your guests happy while they wait to see you instead of watching the clock and their wait times. Chiropractors, doctors, dentists, auto repair shops, anyone with TVs in your waiting rooms, jump onto this amazing offer today. And if you text the word franchise to 474747, Atmosphere will waive the $100 setup fee for the Apple TV HD receiver that they'll ship to you as well at no cost. Atmosphere TV, changing the way businesses view television. Find them online at atmosphere.tv, and remember, text franchise to 474747 for the no-charge Apple receiver. Cut the cord and get rid of cable today with Atmosphere TV. Matthew Gourgeot is a true advocate and champion of small business in America and heads corporate and business development at Thryv, where he's responsible for leading their enterprise division and developing the company's strategic corporate partnerships. Traded on the NASDAQ, Thryv is the provider of software that supports more than 40,000 local businesses and nearly 500,000 users across the continent. What they've created is a fully integrated, end-to-end B2C customer experience platform, so small businesses can reach more customers, stay better organized, get paid faster, and generate more online reviews. Utilizing Thryv's platform, small businesses can manage their customers anytime, anywhere, and from any device. Matthew Gourgeot, welcome to Franchise Today.
Well, Stan, I really appreciate the invite and looking forward to the chat.
So am I. I mean, we've had a great first meeting at IFA. Why don't you tell the audience how you and I met?
Well, I was in the exhibit hall where there's hundreds of booths and everything, and Thryv, our company, we had a booth, and I'm walking by Red Boswell's booth at ISPG, and he tells me that Michael Gerber is at your booth, and that somehow, some way, you got Mr. Gerber there. And if you're kind of a small business nerd like I am, and his book, The E-Myth, is something that I recommend to all the entrepreneurs that I work with and to my team and everything at Thryv. And so I had to stop by. I did shake your hand and had a chance to meet Mr. Gerber, and that was really cool. So I appreciate you getting him there. But that's the story as I remember it.
You shook his hand. You shook my hand. Getting me out of the way is what you were trying to do. You just wanted to get over to see Michael E. Gerber. And that was the reaction that a lot of people had. It was a real pleasure to have him join the IFA's convention and conference, and moreover, to spend a couple hours with us at FRM Solutions, meeting people like you, who all of us have taken that book as the gospel. For years that I've been around franchising, that's been like number one for me. So it was a real thrill. So that's how you and I met. But how did franchising and Matthew meet is the bigger question that the audience is wanting to know about. So tell us that portion of your story.
Yeah, well, actually, in college, an alumni of our university was a multi-unit operator of the franchise Gold's Gym. And I went to school for business and marketing. And I just happened to network in and did my internship at his two or three. At that time, he had two, he had a third. And so I worked for this franchisee. And after college, I actually played professional golf for a little bit, kind of unsuccessfully. And so I would in the spring and in the summer, I would be out on tour, playing in tournaments, traveling and whatnot. And in the fall and winter, I would come back and work in his sales and marketing department. And I did that for a couple of years. I made more money working for that guy than I did out on tour playing golf. But that was kind of my first experience in the franchising space, working for a franchisee.
So what did that look like to you from that perspective? What was your take on working for a franchisee? What did that mean to you? That what he was a part of was greater than the box that he owned that you were managing? What was your impression of that?
Well, my first was the recognition of a logo. The Gold's Gym logo is recognizable, and they had built up the brand over the years. And that was pretty neat to kind of, as your first kind of marketing job, working for a recognizable logo. Another thing I remember I was 21, 22 at the time, was having this company, this guy running this small business, but at the same time, there being certain guidelines like bumpers, right? It's not like you just go crazy with the marketing ideas and the sales tactics and stuff to get new members. There were certain things that Gold's Gyms wanted done. The franchisee that I worked for at times would go rogue. And I remember him getting his wrist slapped from time to time, right? And that was just kind of my first experience in being a corporate office and a franchisor and all the incredible things that come from working for a great brand. But at the same time, a small business owner operating 2 or 3 locations and sometimes having ideas, but not being able to act on them because you want to follow the guidelines of a brand. But it was a really neat experience.
And tell us again, when was this?
This would have been 2000, 2008, 2009, 2010. So right as the financial crisis was hitting.
Right. All right. So then where did franchising and you meet again, or how did you wind up in a position today where you are the head of corporate and business development and the head of the franchise business unit for a company the size of Thryv? You didn't just kind of walk into that job out of gold, Matthew. So come on, what's the rest of the story?
Yeah, so I did a couple of years working with that franchisee. And in the same building as one of our locations was this marketing and advertising company. It's called Haibu now. The previous name was Yellow Book. It was a yellow page print advertising company that was transitioning to digital right around that 2009 time, right? When Google and different things were coming on. And I eventually went to work for that company. And so I left franchising, went into this organization that was working with small business owners all over the country. My territory was the Southeast. And I remember from the first week that I worked at this company, getting to work with different entrepreneurs, like the first conversation, I remember I called on a chiropractor and just talking to the gatekeeper, going into the office, meeting with Dr. Wooten, that was the doctor's name that ran the chiropractic office, just loved everything about it, like talking about his history, how he built the business, their pain points, everything. That obviously was a match made in heaven, did really well, selling advertising and marketing services to these customers. And within that organization, I took a few promotions, ran a bigger territory year after year. And around 2015, the leadership team that was running that company came over to a company called Dex Media that was similarly doing the same thing, but launched a software business for small businesses. And so I followed that leadership team to what is now called Thryv. It's the company I work at now. And we, again, were working with small businesses. But what was really neat, Stan, was that around that time that I joined that company, I had a friend that went to work for Neighborly. And at that time, it was called the Dwyer Group, right? And they're a great platform company that owns, I think, 20 plus home service franchise brands. And a lot of the franchisees within Neighborly were spending money with our company to drive leads. And so I, for a couple of years, worked and serviced and got to know the Neighborly company. And they're an incredible organization with great leadership, Mike Bidwell and their team over there. And so there was a gap between, for about 6 or 7 years where I wasn't working in franchising, and then got back into the industry supporting, of all people, Neighborly. And so about 2.5 years ago, our company, as we're supporting these franchise brands from a marketing services standpoint, products like search engine marketing, social media advertising, print yellow pages, different advertising products, we've been supporting great franchise brands for decades like that. What happened was we had an emerging concept with close to 80 locations that came to our company and actually installed our software at every location. And our product team and our leadership team, we kind of looked around and we're like, hey, this kind of works within franchising. So our company came to me and they said, Matt, hey, would you like to launch a software business within Thryv for the franchising industry? And I couldn't say yes fast enough, right? Because I just finished working with Neighborly. I was obsessed with the franchise community, and I wanted to do it. We did that over 2.5 years ago. We had no franchise software customers 2.5 years ago. We've got a couple dozen brands now, hundreds of locations kind of under contract. I know it was a long story, Stan, but that's where we're at today.
It's really a great story, actually, and it's the story that we love about franchising. Whether it finds you as a single unit operator or you become a multi-unit franchise enterprise, and or whether you are a business owner who then takes the franchise business model and the prototype that is prescribed by a book like, say, The E-Myth, and you start franchising your business, there's incredible quantum leaps that we get out of franchising where 1 and 1 is not linear math and 2, but 1 and 1 is like 11. So whether you're doing it on the outside in as a marketing or a technology company that's in support of franchising, which is as I do with FRM Solutions, it's just from my perspective, I'm a supplier serving the franchisors of the community. You're a marketing and a technology company doing much the same, but focused on the franchisee and their end users. Isn't that correct?
That's correct. And I have a passion for working with small businesses. I mean, as I told you, that's pretty much from the time I left Gold's Gym, where I was working for a small business owner. My entire career has been supporting small businesses. And that gap where when I left Gold's to when I started working with Neighborly, there was 8 or so years whenever I met with thousands of small businesses, successful ones and a lot of unsuccessful ones. And if you know the statistics, right, that when you start your own small business, the failure rates, all the struggles. And what was fascinating to me about the franchising community and just the franchise business model in general is a lot of the pain, a lot of the failure can be mitigated really through the model, because the franchisors come up with a concept, all the things that really lead to business failure. It's not 100%, but I mean, you can pretty much navigate through that because there's a proven concept. So you get all this really great things about entrepreneurship, freedom, and whatnot through it. And I just, from the time I've really been working in franchise, that's really what fascinates me about the business model.
I saw something on the Thryv website that I thought in 4 short lines for me kind of spelled it all out. The saying said, what Thryv does is helps you get the job, manage the job, get paid, and even get credit online. How does Thryv do that? Are you banking and providing credit too?
No, so it's great that you bring that up, because I think one of the things that's impacting all of small business, and franchisees are small business owners, right? Franchising is powered by small business, and controlling the customer experience, because we're doing this. I mean, we're in different states. We're using technology. I've got my smartphone here. It's blowing up with notifications. Like, technology is just flying and consumer expectations are through the roof. And so it's really tough for an entrepreneur right now to keep up with that. And one of the things that, whether you're independent or a franchise brand, is managing that consumer expectation, managing that consumer experience is really tough. And what we're seeing, Stan, within franchising and within small business is that people are moving to the cloud. They're moving to using technology to manage that customer experience, but they're normally using 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different tools to manage, if you would, the customer journey. And that's extremely tough to train. It's extremely tough to scale, right? And you kind of have to be really tech savvy to navigate that. And so what Thryv's really doing, especially within the franchise space, is we're looking at, like, when I work with a franchisor and their team, we're looking at the customer experience at the local level. And one, how do we make it better? But then two, how do we standardize it and really modernize it? And instead of them having to go find 6, 7, or 8 tech solutions to do it, they can use our system, but the franchisor is installing our Thryv software at the local level to help their franchisees get jobs, manage jobs, get credit after the sale. And we work with service-based businesses. So those could be get clients, work with clients, get students, get patients, whatever the terminology you want to use. But it's really just navigating that customer experience. It's gotten so tough. You really need good technology to do that.
So when you talk about get credit online, are you talking then about the word credit as it pertains to the reviews that you'll be getting from your consumers? So I just misinterpreted.
Yeah, credit for your good work, credit for delivering on your promise to the consumer. I mean, I think that when you look at reviews online, we just did a study, and about 80% of people trust an online review as if a dear friend was telling them to move forward with that brand. When I go online, I'm looking for confidence. I want to be confident I can move forward with your company, whatever that product or service might be. And then two, the convenience of it. Is it easy to do business with you? But the get credit piece is after the sale. This is where a lot of entrepreneurs kind of we naturally all drop the ball, right? We do all this work and there's no proof of that online. There's no proof of that after the point of sale. And it's really critical when you're working with a consumer that might use you again, right? So the get credit piece is not just you want to get online and get great reviews and whatnot and have testimonials and different things like that. But also there's a nurturing component to our software where after maybe I did business with you, the software is going to follow with me in 30 days, 90 days, a few weeks. It's going to thank you. It's going to prompt me for a review. It's going to remind me, I go into a marketing machine that gets automated email and text so that I become a repeat customer.
As I get my head around what Thryv does, it seems to me there's just an incredible amount of brilliance here, because the things that a franchisor does for a franchisee in many cases is all around the secret sauce of the brand. It's all about the actual execution of the operating system that's associated with that brand. There are many very sophisticated franchisors like Neighborly who are providing tools perhaps for franchisees that are internal homegrown systems, but I'll bet there are that many more, just from my personal experience on the Zor side, that haven't built it or created it and haven't found it out of the box yet either. So I think the brilliance of what I see in Thryv comes in two ways. Number one, for the independent guy who owns his own 3 trucks, HVAC or plumbing, or chiropractor who owns an office and needs those kinds of tools to help him manage his relationships with prospective and existing clients, and to manage the appointment setting and getting paid for his billing or getting his invoicing done and all that. He, as an independent operator, needs those things. As a franchisee, many times franchisees still need those things, but in large part, I think they get those from their franchisors. But how many franchisors have that level of sophistication yet? I don't know, but it looks to me like Thryv answers that urgent call for a mom and pop, or for the franchisee who is a mom and pop, but of a major corporation like, say, a Neighborly. So you're getting it done either way. It's for small business. You're crushing it.
Yeah, there's a couple things to unpack there that you hit the nail on the head. I think that 80% of the franchising industry in the U.S. has less than 80% of the logos, right? The brands have less than 100 locations. So that's one of the things that I've had experience working with and for major franchise brands. And when you're working for a major company, a lot of vendors will come in and roll out the red carpet and take you to play golf and all that stuff. But one of the things that I noticed working with emerging brands was that they didn't have access to affordable tools like what we've been talking about, right? The reason they have 6, 7, or 8 different point solutions is because those are cheaper point solutions, right? These are like an email marketing tool, a CRM tool, a scheduling tool, invoicing tool. And what they go out and they find kind of a mediocre, cheaper point solution, and then they paste it together and that's their system. But they have had to do that in the past because there's not really affordable options out there for emerging brands. So one of the things that we wanted to do in franchising was treat a 10, 15, 20, 30 location brand as if they were this iconic franchise brand from a service standpoint, and then provide a software that had enough technology advancement to match the consumer expectation. But at the same time, it's easy to use, so you don't have to have like an MIT grad to use it. And it's affordable. It's in line with industry tech fees and different things like that, so you're not charging them so much to use it. And another thing to mention was, for a small business or for a franchise business, Salesforce put out a study a couple of years ago where it showed that like a small business owner, like a franchisee, on average was losing 1 day a week to doing manual tasks through that customer journey, or just running their business, whether it was payroll or communicating with clients, appointments. Think of all the aspects of running a small business. Salesforce said small business owners were losing 1 day a week to doing manual tasks. So close to 50 days a year they were losing just doing these manual tasks, right? And so that's why it's so critical to use technology to implement into your processes, right? That just saves you time. You can be more efficient. And you multiply that over 2, 3, 4, 5 years. Whether you succeed or not, it's greatly dependent on how you leverage technology.
No doubt. No doubt. And COVID has certainly advanced that, in that technology was already moving at a lightning speed, lightning quick before COVID. But I think COVID accelerated it even further than that. Matthew, let's take a quick break right here. And when we come back, I want to talk more about Thryv's foundation for nonprofit work as well. And I want to get into some of that. And we're going to talk a little about the 30 Under 30 program. But let's get a quick break out of the way first. We're speaking today with Matthew Gourgeot. He heads up the Franchise Business Development Unit of Thryv, and we'll be right back.
Franchise Today will be right back. But first, a word from our sponsors.
We are all familiar with Vistage, YPO, and EO. Well, now comes Zor Forum, a somewhat similar type of executive group, but this one comes with a twist. Zor Forum groups are exclusively for franchisors. Imagine a peer group for sharing and networking on a platform built exclusively for franchise executives. Zor Forum members are afforded unparalleled access to best practices and some of the brightest minds within the franchising world, through regular meetings and a dedicated communications platform. In this post-COVID world, a franchise-specific mastermind or peer group is an endeavor worth making time for. Zor Forum groups of 6 to 10 will bring leaders together that are in similar situations, but with exclusivity in terms of their competitive sets, so that each can openly help others benefit from their respective knowledge, perspective, and experience with no fear of competitive loss. Network, learn, strategize, and remain motivated along your journey. Join a peer group, not just any peer group. Join the only one designed for emerging franchisors. Join and Zorforum. Learn more at zorforum.com. That's www.zorforum.com. And the conversation continues with Matthew Gourgeot, who heads up business development and is also the head of the franchise business unit for Thryv. And we've been chatting about the intersection of technology and marketing and its impact on small business and small business owners. And we've discussed thus far how much some of these tools have advanced at the speed of light that are now so technology driven that your marketing, as it used to be done, is like trying to drive your dad's old Buick. You can't do that the way you used to do it anymore. You need tools like those that we're talking about here today. Another thing you need to be sustainable in your business is a heart. And most businesses that stick around and are sustainable in their growth have a nonprofit component to them. Matthew, talk a little about Thryv and what Thryv does through its foundation and about your heart space as well.
Yes, Dan, that's something near and dear to me. We have incredible CEO at Thryv, Joe Walsh, and he spent his whole career supporting small businesses. And the foundation was really his brainchild. He wanted to launch a nonprofit supporting the small business space. And in 2018, he did. We legally created it and whatnot. And I was tapped on the shoulder at Thryv to be the director to really launch it, get it off the ground. And so 2019, we officially became a 501c3. And the mission, or really the vision of the foundation, is to empower, develop, and invest in small business. We empower through education. We have a few educational partners out there, like the Small Business Development Centers, which are part of the Small Business Administration. We'll do free educational things for them all over the country. SCORE, another organization, where we'll come in and provide some free education. We've worked with college campuses. A lot of these college campuses now have entrepreneurial courses, things that we didn't have, like when I went to school, and we'll go in and really show them kind of what life is like as an entrepreneur. We've donated some of our software to college campuses to run some of these classes and whatnot. And we're working with various minority groups and some different organizations where we've donated some of our software there too. And then in 2020, we actually launched our small business grant program, which is funny. We got approved to do that at the beginning of March. This was before COVID even was a thing kind of in the US. It was just becoming a thing right before the shutdowns. And if you remember back at that time, when everybody started shutting down, there was this rush to get the PPP money eventually. And there was a gap between when people applied for PPP and when they got it. There was actually a big gap. And in that gap, our foundation was able to come up with a COVID-19 grant program that I headed up along with our company. And we were able to get hundreds of thousands of dollars out to small businesses in the forms of grants ranging from anywhere from like $3,000 up to about $15,000. And we raised that money basically from our board, our leadership. They put money in, and then we opened it up to our employees. We have about 2,500 employees at Thryv, and hundreds of employees donated like anything from $5 up to like a couple $1,000. And the company did a match. And we basically created this pot of money at that time that we were able to award in grants to small businesses and franchisees all over the country. I mean, I talked to every single grant awardee, talked to them on the phone during COVID, and they were scared that they couldn't even pay their electricity bill, payroll. I mean, it was just a crazy time. You think back to April of 2020. I cried on the phone with many of these entrepreneurs and stuff, but we got hundreds of thousands of dollars out at that time. And now one of my good friends, Selena Axeas, she runs the foundation. I turned over the reins of the director to her at the end of last year, but I had a great 3-year run as the director of the Thryv Foundation. And I was doing that on top of my day job within the company.
Well, like you, I have some passion and put a lot of energy into the IFA through the work I've done over the years as a founding member of the IFA Diversity Board and its Diversity Institute, and also sitting on the Educational Foundation for the IFA's Board of Trustees. We need to get you together with us and get you busy with some of the work that we do through the foundation and through the Diversity Institute, and put some of the 501c3 resources that are available through Thryv to work to the benefit of the IFA as well. It's going to be another bucket that you and I have to check to make certain that all that can be done is being done, and that we're putting our collective energies together, because there's synergy here, a lot of it.
Well, consider me in any way we can help.
Great. So let's move on a little. We've got a few minutes to talk more about some things that I've discovered, like the MatthewGourgeot.com website, where you feature your favorite books and podcasts. I don't see Franchise Today on that list yet, Matthew. Did the check not arrive?
Check hasn't arrived, but I tell you what, I'll put yours on there for free.
I want it on there because it's earned its place. And if we have to get somebody to help you with some WordPress, hey, we can probably figure that out. Let's turn one last corner on a more serious note and talk about the work that you've been doing, that you've been so gracious to invite me to join you in, which is something that's called 30 Under 30. Tell the audience some more about that.
Yeah, it's not a who's who like one of those 30 under 30 or 40 under 40 watch list or whatnot.
If it was one of those, anything to do with under 30 would disqualify me.
It would disqualify me too. So initiative or program is the 30 under 30 emerging franchisor mentorship program. And this really stemmed from when I wanted to launch a software business within franchising. I was introduced to a great organization called Franworth. And I was introduced to John Rocci, David Barr, Meg Roberts, and David Kyle, and a couple of their other leaders within that organization. And they just went above and beyond to really mentor me in the ins and outs of the franchising industry. I mean, I had a little bit of knowledge, but they really just went above and beyond, sat me down and taught me a lot of things within franchising. And we've developed a really great corporate partnership with them. And Franworth is a growth equity company that owns a portfolio of brands. A lot of you listening to this podcast probably know the names that I just mentioned. And one of the things that they noticed, and they work with a lot of emerging brands, and at Thryv over the last few years, we've been supporting emerging brands. A lot of franchisors don't get to meet a lot of other franchisors, right? And so we kind of were trying to come up with something within franchising that would be really beneficial for the people they knew, the emerging brands that we knew. And we settled on this initiative called 30 Under 30, where we launched the first version of it last year, where we got 30 brands. These are anywhere from, they just got their FDD, you got 0 locations to 30 locations. And what we do is we have mentors, and these are some of the who's who in franchise. And these are people that have grown brands, run great organizations. And I remember when Meg put out kind of an email, Meg Roberts put out an email to the community, like, hey, we're thinking of launching this with Thryv. Would you volunteer your time to mentor an early stage franchise brand? I didn't know how many people would respond, but we had close to 100 people get back and say, count us in. We only needed 30. We got over 100. And so what we do is basically we have an application period right around when the IFA annual conference happens. And for about 30 days, we take applications. We just announced the class of 2022. So think of 30 brands. We have these 30 great mentors that agree to meet with their mentee once a month via Zoom or whatever platform you want to use to just kind of coach them up. I mean, every situation is a little different, but whatever questions the emerging franchisor might have, maybe they're just having a tough issue or they're having a tough time around one little thing, but just having someone that's been there, that's walked the path, that's done it successfully, you can kind of talk to. We've really created a great little program where we match them up, and the mentors, again, just agreed once a month to sit down with these mentees, and they do it for a year. So all the way up until IFA of next year. And then we'll get another class and then another class. And it was such a big hit in the first year that we, again, this is our second annual time to do it. But it's really become a great program. We actually had a lot more than 30 brands apply. This year is really tough kind of selecting the few that would be a part. But that just launched. We're kicking it off April 19th with a nice little kickoff call.
Well, I think it's brilliant. And I can't think of a better crew of people to spearhead that than David and John and Meg. I was lucky enough, I guess, to be one of the first members of or maybe the second year of John Rocci's friendship program that he brought to IFA years ago. Rocci has always been one who has wanted to give, and there's nobody more giving than David and, again, Meg. So I'm thrilled to be a mentor and to help. And as you know, the work that I'm doing with my partners in Zor Forum leads into the same place. You can't do enough to help people get the right starts. We see, I think they say 300 new brands a year that are born into the IFA population, but I wonder how many of those we lose in a year because they don't get to touch and be touched by people who can help point them in the right directions early enough in their concepts. It takes time to figure out that operating your business to the point where you want to scale it was one skill set, but then scaling it is a completely different one. And you can't get to the end game trying to do that piece of it the same way as you did the operation as a unit operator. So I think this is going to help pay it forward for a great many people to get the right start in franchising. What is it that I haven't asked you, Matthew, that if anything that you wished I might have before we run out of time?
One thing that I would just say for your listeners out there, we're obviously a supplier and we'd love to work with you. You've got great companies like FRM Solutions, and if you're familiar with what Stan does, sometimes we get confused with that. We're almost a complement to what Stan and his company are doing, get confused with that. But our franchisors that we work with and the brands that we work with are installing our software at the franchisee level. So it's franchisee to consumer. They're using our technology for that. And a lot of it reports up to the franchisor, so they have data and they can make data-driven decisions and they can see what's going on at the location level. But I just wanted to call that out because, as we're doing trade shows and as we're doing events, we're going to this, sometimes it gets confusing, but we feel that our software helps you create thriving franchisees. And that's kind of our value prop to the franchising community.
And before I ask you to give contact info, I want to circle back to the very beginning of this conversation today, because I should have asked you then and I didn't. What were your thoughts on Tiger Woods and his comeback this weekend at the Masters?
I was glad to see him back, and hopefully he just plays more because it's so much fun to watch him.
I think he's an inspiration, and he talks about to be successful in golf, you've got to do the work. You got to do the work. And for me to see him coming on a leaderboard in the 40s instead of the top 3 doesn't change the fact that he went to do what he needed to do so that he could go back and do it again. And I think the guy is the greatest inspiration. And anyone in franchising that can't be inspired by executing the way Tiger Woods does is really missing it. So it's not about winning or losing so much as it is about how you're playing the game and what a role model he is. So I just wondered what your thoughts were on that because of your affinity for golf. I couldn't let this podcast end without asking that. I can't let it go either without contact info. Matthew, why don't you give us some of that?
Yeah, thryv.com is THRYV. That's how we spell it, THRYV.com. We have a franchising page there where you can contact our team for a demo. You can find me on LinkedIn and at Twitter. My Twitter handle is @Matthew Gourgeot. Good luck spelling my last name. I've got a tough last name and a tough company name to spell, but I'm on LinkedIn as well. I respond to all messages. So if you connect with me there, that's probably the best. I would go to LinkedIn and connect with me, shoot me a message, and I'd love to meet with you. And if you're interested in the 30 for 30, if you're an emerging brand, listen to Stan's podcast, we'd love to connect you. Even if you can't be part of this class, we have a whole network of just incredible people. The franchising community is just so great. There's so many people willing to help and go above and beyond. It's almost too good to be true sometimes, but we can connect you there. But that's what I would say, Stan. Just either email me or hit me up on LinkedIn.
I appreciate it, Matthew, and look forward to seeing you at the next events. I don't know where you're going to be next. Any place you can share with us where the audience may find you out there on the trail in the next weeks ahead?
Yeah, we've got a few things. I think I'm looking forward to the Consumer Experience Conference that the Franchise Update Media and IFA are putting on in June in Atlanta. I think in your stomping grounds at the Intercontinental. We're really looking forward to that. And we'll got an announcement coming out soon of our own event within franchising that we're launching. And I think that'll be pretty neat.
We covered a lot of territory in a very short space of time, but we'll be together again and again. We've got so much more to get connected with each other on, and we've got plenty of time to do it. So wishing you all the best.
Thank you, Stan. Appreciate it.
Matthew Gourgeot, head of the franchise business unit for Thryv. Well, that's it for today. We're back again next week to do it all again when we'll be joined by WowWorks CEO Kelly Roddy. Until then, I'm Stan Friedman, wishing you the best, the very best of all things franchising. And Franchise Today is out.
Franchise Today is a production of FRM Solutions, providing best-in-class CRM tools to empower relationships with prospective and existing franchisees. No excuses, just solutions. Find them online at frmsolutions.com. Join Stan every Wednesday at noon Eastern for another live episode of Franchise Today. Or, as always, download episodes on demand at blogtalkradio.com or iTunes.
When you're part of a military family, you understand sacrifice and support. At American Public University, we honor your dedication by extending our military tuition savings to your extended family. Parents, spouses, legal partners, siblings, and dependents all qualify for APU's preferred military rate of just $250 per credit hour for undergraduate and master's level programs. American Public University. Value for the whole family. Learn more at apu.apus.edu/military.